begun!
Hello. Welcome to the CTB show. Today is June 10th, 2018. The weather, a little sprinkly. The Dow.
25,316.
I feel like shit and I'm gonna die. Welcome to the show. My name is Evan the Mayor. That is Brian the Levy.
Hi.
That is Casey the Kasem.
Howdy.
And a very, 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 very special guest, Allison Robicelli. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
So grateful to have you here. Was unaware that you're basically my next door neighbor.
Yeah,
You live
pretty
over in
much.
Big Town.
Yeah, you can come over anytime you want. I built a fire pit in my backyard.
What?
With my bare hands. With a bunch of rocks I scavenged from my neighbor's yard. They weren't there.
We will get to that and much, much more on this show. I just have to get these top of the show plugs out of the way. Thank you very much for continuing to click through those various banners on citythatbreeds.com/deals.
It supports your jet set lifestyle.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment and very
No, it
briefly.
We can barely afford cords.
It's true. $7 cords. Ugh, the budget is doubled.
We're on the way up. I don't know what the problem is.
Casey, you have earned yourself a True Patriot Award for this week. Why don't you tell us why?
Shopping through that Amazon tab, buying all the baby stuff. Clicking on the Target tab, buying some more baby stuff.
Very good.
And then had to give myself a little treat and signed up.
yourself.
Yeah, hashtag treat yourself. Joined the Craft Beer Club.
Craft Beer of the Month Club. You will find that banner and more.
So what? You're getting
Six. It's that's 12 beers actually. You get
a month?
I'm testing it out, so I will let you guys know how it goes.
This is low commitment.
Yeah, but
Like-
you can sign up for one shipment. You can sign up for monthly, every other month, quarterly. It really is choose your own adventure of craft beer.
Oh, and you always end up dead.
I mean, eventually, over the
Eaten
long
by
run.
giant spiders.
Yes.
It's that or beer.
My favorite Choose Your Own Adventure novel was entitled You Are a Shark.
I like the Cave of Time.
Cave of Time.
Or the Haunted Mansion.
It's pretty good. Those are
Haunted
good
Mansion
ones.
might be a Disney thing.
Classics. Okay, so updates. The surprise vacation that I teased last week, it wound up being San Diego, California. Whee!
I am making lots of Anchorman jokes. Fill them in yourself.
Yeah, I know. There was a lot of that going on the interwebs, the Facebook, the Fache book, as I call it.
Did they do it on the in-flight? Like, welcome to San Diego, a.k.a. Whale's Regina.
Yes, they kept winking at me and saying, hey, remember that movie?
Did you bring your Yaz flute?
I did, and I ate the cat poop, too, and I got a steak for it.
Nice.
San Diego, very fun. Lots of breweries. San Diego Zoo is fantastic. It's amazing. I don't know what else to say. I didn't have enough time.
You were by yourself.
What was your favorite animal?
Oh, there was a tub pool with a mama hippo and a baby hippo.
Fiona?
And they were both pressed up against the glass, and I will show you this photo. This precious little baby hippo was just like totally zen chilling.
Is that the one in your
glass.
Instagram story
Yes,
with the
yes,
zoom in
yes,
and
yes.
Most people don't know this, but hippos are killers.
Oh, most people don't know this, but hippos kill more people than any other animal every year.
Except for man.
Yes.
The most dangerous game.
Yeah.
It's really hippos.
I'm not sure if that's still holding up, but I remember like 15 years ago, like hippos
Yeah.
were just like, they will kill you.
You'll be on your boat in the river, and they'll just rise from the bottom and just murder you.
They'll
Yeah.
eat you whole and gore you with their tusky teeth.
Did you make friends when you were by yourself?
Fortunately, I had a friend from college who lives in San Diego, and so number one, didn't have enough time to like see all the things I wanted to see. But as soon as I left,
like a naked stranger, which is what I wanted you to see.
Well, I went so far as to inquire about professional services.
Wow.
Apparently, I was told that no, you don't want to be in San Diego for that. You have to go to Orange County. And I was like, okay, whatever.
A high-priced Californian escort.
Something like that. Caitlin, grow up. Anyway, I got back late Wednesday and was wheels up Thursday to go down to one St. Mary's College in Southern Maryland for alumni weekend, which is why I will not be doing any heavy lifting during this episode. I am completely hammered right now. I think I don't even know. I took some sort of weird Russian Ritalin type thing to just get me through today.
Russian Ritalin is the best Ritalin.
I know.
I assume it has no regulations.
None whatsoever.
Why would you want a Russian drug with regulations? Like, that defeats the purpose.
And isn't Russian Ritalin just cocaine?
I don't know. It was a half tablet. I was handed it just to get me through, the car ride home.
Who are you meeting that's just handing you Russian Ritalin?
It's a boyfriend, Australian man who lives on the West Coast and is in a startup where they're developing microscope technologies.
This sounds legitimate.
Is this the person that Facebook really wants me to be friends with lately?
Maybe.
Yeah. His name just started showing up. I'm like, I kind of know his girlfriend.
Yeah, but now you know that he has Russian Ritalin.
I know. Now I want to be his friend.
Yeah. So either way, once we have now gotten all of this stuff out of the way, I'm going to turn the keys over to one Brian Levy.
Oh.
And I will occasionally make a sound something like
a
this.
Grunt.
So we are very lucky this week to have Allison with us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm lucky to be here.
Because it's not often we get a guest with a national presence, if not a mid-Atlantic presence.
That's so weird. It's so weird because I'm like just the schlubbiest, most normal mom of two living in a crap hole of Pigtown, like everything. So it's, there's your normal life and then there's your internet life.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I have a Twitter account and I write books, but I'm still broke.
No. And your Twitter account is on fire, but let's do a little bit of background. So you are from New York originally?
From Brooklyn. I am, my family got off a boat in Italy and sat in Brooklyn and just did not frickin' leave until me.
That's what happened, except we were Jews and it was Baltimore. Yeah. So, it makes sense. So you've spent most of your life in Brooklyn. What, 2 years ago you moved down here?
Yeah, I moved on my 36th birthday. I thought that was like a nice little poetic thing because I actually grew up, I lived 8 blocks from the hospital I was born in, my father was born in, and my grandfather was born in. So I was I lived in my great grandparents' house. And on my 36th birthday, I picked up and I moved here, and that was almost 2 years ago.
Lots of people moved to town.
Uh-huh.
You had articles written about,
It was weird.
It was the biggest move since Mayflower,
It was like a Baltimore Sun article. It was like the Robicellis are coming to Baltimore.
And it's weird because again, like there's in the food business, especially like the whole notion of like celebrity chef was always kind of silly. Because like real celebrities, they go to movies and parties and they get their hair done, and celebrity chefs will stick their hand down a grease trap to see if a rat is clogging the system, So there's that celebrity presence, but you're not really a celebrity. And, my parents found out I was moving from the news. Like, I was just like, I want to move. I'm tired of New York. It's gone to hell. I love Baltimore. I want to move down here. It should not be a national issue. Yet somehow it was. So this was a learning experience for all of us. And I've got the Baltimore Sun calling me. I'm like, why are you calling? I just want to freaking move. I'm like, can you get my kid into a better school? It was weird.
I remember there was a whole bunch. I feel like for some reason, restaurant coverage was like hot that year.
Yeah.
So I think like you just it was a perfect storm of things. The weird thing for me is because, I do a little bit of due diligence. Like I Googled you.
Yeah.
Not everything was nice.
Yeah.
And it's like you hadn't gotten here yet.
I hadn't done anything. I didn't announce this. I was in my house. I was like in my pajamas when I was getting phone calls about this stuff. And people are like, well, what about this? And I was like, why are you asking me these questions? I just want to have a better life for my children and my family. And, people see, Robicelli's as a business or a brand or whatnot, but we're a real family. It's me and Matt are married. We have 2 kids. We're trying to make it just like every other family does. So it was very surreal. I mean, I got a lot of nice letters from people like, welcome to the neighborhood. But on the other hand, they're like, well, what's the big deal about you? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to work. And
we're from Brooklyn.
Right.
No. And when I grew up in Brooklyn, Brooklyn was not Brooklyn. It was like this fucking place. And like the way you see Baltimore now, Baltimore and Brooklyn, the parallels are insane.
I definitely like to think of us as a pre-Giuliani type of city.
Yeah, that's what I saw because we got to like there were a million little reasons that we moved. And that was the funny thing when I'd see all those not nice things on the internet, like, well, was it this or was it this? I'm like, it could be like 1,000 things.
Right.
It's 1,000 cuts. And one of them was growing up in New York City in the 80s and 90s, which was like a very broken kind of crazy place. It makes you into a certain type of person who, you know, will create stuff like you guys are.
Harmony Korine.
Yeah, it's that crazy
Kids. She's the guy who directed Kids.
You know, DIY. Well, I went to school, like, I knew those kids from Kids, you know, like
That's
that.
great.
It was just so exciting and wonderful. And now everything is a juice bar or a designer showroom. And we realized, like, we cannot raise our kids in our memories in New York.
My favorite New York is from that opening scene of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which has all like the street urchins stealing TVs and stuff.
Yes. Like, or like in Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal, where he had his abandoned warehouse in Brooklyn he could skateboard in all the time. Like, my kids can't find a decent abandoned warehouse now.
It's interesting the stories you once were able to tell. In New York versus like what it is now. And it's a completely different place.
It's different. And then when you realize kind of, you know, you put your kids' eyes on it, not like, oh, when I bet day it was great. Like, they're just not going to learn how to be those people who are like, you know, oh, we see a problem. We should fix it. We should start a band. We should start a podcast. We should get together and just do cool shit. So we came here and I was like, this is it. This feels like exactly like it used to when I was a kid. And I'm like, this is where they're going to get that.
Sure.
And that was one of the biggest reasons we moved. And then also we were like part of the pioneers of this Brooklyn food scene, which was not something that we intended to create. Like, none of us. And we just were people who were just dicking around. I guess it like in a really kind of bizarre parallel, like it reminds me of Seattle in the early 90s. And, you know, they're just local bands. And then suddenly you have everybody creating a scene or an idea and like putting these kids, like literal kids, under a microscope. We're just a bunch of people in our 20s. We're like, hey, we just wanted to do some cool stuff and hang out with our friends and start a market under a church on the weekends because we hate working in restaurants in Manhattan, working for these rich people.
So tell me about that Brooklyn food scene. I've been seeing commercials for the show called Sweet Bitter.
I don't know what that is, but I know it's going to piss me off. But continue.
It's about a girl who is a waitress, and they absolutely have the line, "New York City is never the wrong choice."
Oh no, it is. It is. Bitch, get out.
So it's that kind of show. But tell me about the Brooklyn food scene. Tell me how it's different from the like how like that area, New York, differs from Baltimore when it comes to food and stuff.
Well, all right. Back when I was coming up around 2001, 2002, nobody would go into Brooklyn. You know, everything was in Manhattan. There was this was like when Sex and the City was on, which was already ruining the city. And you have all these bright-eyed, bushy-tailed girls coming in for like their Carrie Bradshaw fantasies. I used to work in a restaurant that was on Sex and the City, and you'd see those people in all the time, and it was terrible. Like, cooking for those people is terrible. Working a 12, 16-hour shift and then realizing you're making, when you break it down, about $4 to $6 an hour to wait on these people who have like marketing jobs and are puking up apple teenies like in the front in their Louboutins. And it's like, this is what my life is? Like this, I'm like, great. The food is great. I love doing it, but not for these people. So the Brooklyn food scene kind of happened where it was people who were doing that, but on the weekend wanted to kind of have their own thing, or, you know, like, Brooklyn was cheaper. There was no costs in Brooklyn. I was there just because that's where I was from. It was home. But it kind of had this more like DIY ethic where friends would be like, let's do a collaboration, or, you know, let's do a pop-up market, or like we'll start a flea market in this field, or we'll do some dinner party or a supper club at your house. So it was really just kind of DIY. And nobody thought it was actually going to become a thing. And then at one of our things, the New York Times showed up, and we were like, oh, this is great. You know, like, we were just happy because it would bring us more money, because it was still expensive to live there. Not like today, but it was expensive. And then just things started going crazy. And next thing you know, you have companies across the world like ripping us off. I mean, you're not seeing like people get the opportunities. You're seeing like, oh, you know, Mr. Donut in Japan is copying what I do. And like, you know, the flavors and the foods I make up, and everything is Brooklyn style, or, you know, they have Brooklyn stores in Paris and Stockholm. Now there's being like, I've been in some books, like the creators of Brooklyn, the makers of Brooklyn, that are sold in like Russia. I've had my pictures in magazines in Japan, and it is weird.
And they don't call you first. They just put them there.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I found out that I'm in a book in France. I don't know anything about this book. I'm still trying to get information on it. They have printed like, not my recipes, but like things I've made and about me and used pictures from Google. I had no idea.
So what are your specialties?
Not really sure anymore. We got famous for cupcakes, which was just silly and ridiculous. And I don't even like cupcakes. And I've said this many, many times. I like cake.
Okay.
And I will eat an entire cake, but that's wrong. So I like taking those giant cakes I make and I would make them cupcakes because I'm like, this way I won't eat the whole cake.
Were you part of the cupcake boom? Are you in Magnolia Cupcakes? Like, how do you feel about Magnolia Cupcakes?
Whatever. It's run by some big venture capital firm. The people who started Magnolia haven't been involved in years. It's a commodity, It was just, it's very silly the more you think about it. And I think one thing that got me popular was during all of this stuff and all this hype, I was there saying, hey, this is ridiculous. I just want everybody to understand how utterly ridiculous this is. And I think people appreciated that about me and about Matt because we weren't really buying into any of this hype or any of these ridiculous things. We constantly made fun of food and satirized it, and because everything just stopped being fun. I mean, not just New York, not just because of the prices or whatnot, but food got really serious.
There is a certain gloss, a certain sheen that food and food journalism took on, and I want to say you can trace it to the very first Who Wants to Be a Food Network Star or whatever that is, where Guy Fieri wins.
I think it was the second season of that show, but yes, you're right.
But there's a certain way that, it was Ida Garden just sitting at a counter making food that kind of shifted. Giada De Laurentiis, in her own kitchen, just making a dish, and how it shifted into something completely different.
Yeah, I had a friend who, or I still have a friend. He's fine. He wrote a book about Food Network. His name's Alan Scalkin, and he had traced how it really blew up after 9/11, Food Network, because suddenly we needed something kind of comforting and homey, and it just
food.
Yeah, and it was comfort food, and it was that idea of like. I don't know if everybody can remember this, but right after 9/11, everybody was in their house for like 6 months watching CNN.
Yeah.
There was a great South Park episode about it. If you are too young to remember 9/11, we're at that age now, but everybody for 2 months watched CNN, then got upset over like anthrax. It was freaking out. And while everybody was cocooning, they kind of went over to Food Network and things just sort of like went a little crazy. And, I know a lot of those people. They're wonderful people. I have very few people in this industry I would ever say anything bad about. And if, it's just, I think everybody understood how kind of weird and surreal and crazy it all is.
Oh, and as easy it is to like make fun of Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
There is still this idea that, he's a supporter of small business. Like he goes to these places, they get a boost for 2-3 years or whatever. And like, he doesn't ever say anything shitty about anybody, but people are very willing to say shitty things about him.
Guy Fieri, he's not my style. I don't know him personally. We have a lot of shared friends and they all adore him. They say he's a great guy. I like to think of Guy Fieri as an elaborate piece of performance art.
He's P.T. Barnum with food.
Yeah. I like to think just honestly, he's like just this straight-laced guy named like Jim or something. And he's like, I'm going to dress up like that drunk uncle who watched Swingers way too many times. And like everybody's placing bets, like say something about a hot tub in Flavortown. I'll give you $20. It just escalates past then. And if you watch things in that sense, that show is amazing.
If he's got a buddy in an earpiece being like, all right, here's what I want you to say next.
Exactly.
So who are some of your favorite? I mean, just who are some of your favorite like Food Network people? Who are your favorite food celebrities?
Oh wow, that's weird. I don't know. It's always weird when you're trying to define celebrity, like who people consider a celebrity and you would. Jacques Pepin is my idol. I got to open up for him at the Newport Mansions Wine and Food Festival. Actually, he was the reason that we decided to leave New York. He was like that straw that broke the camel's back. He's wonderful and he's everything. He is just an adorable, wonderful French man, and he taught me everything I know. And he will always be kind of above reproach for me. Sarah Moulton is another one from way back when, who is a darling. Does everybody remember Sarah Moulton?
No.
Oh, Sarah Moulton was an early person on Food Network. Like, I was really always into the people on PBS, like Martin Yan.
Yeah, Yan Can't Cook?
Yeah, Yan is, I haven't met him. I actually saw him at a food show once, but I got so like, that I freaked out and I hid. Same thing with Martha Stewart. Like, there's just people like, I cannot with that, you know? But then the other people that you'll think of, like, you know, like Tom Colicchio and stuff, like, I don't see them as celebrities. You know, I love
Wait,
what
is
they
Tom
do.
Colicchio, is he,
He's a really good guy.
is he, but no,
guy.
what is he on? Is he on MasterChef? Or is he the bald guy on MasterChef?
I don't watch MasterChef.
oh.
He's a Top Chef.
Top Chef, okay. All right, I don't watch Top Chef.
Yes.
I like the Gordon Ramsay shows. Hell's Kitchen is the worst show I've seen every episode of.
I see that. I can see that. I you know, what's weird for me about food entertainment is that it's entertainment. Like what he does, that's actually the kitchen culture I grew up in, which is not healthy.
No, and we're going to get to that.
You know, it's not healthy at all. But when Matt and I would watch it and watch a lot of these other like competition or food shows, you're watching it from a professional perspective and they're sort of like laughing. And then you kind of realize like, wait, all these people who are starting to come into the industry to work for us, they think that they're supposed to be stabbing each other in the back and sabotaging each other. They think they're supposed to be screaming. They think they're supposed to be like, you know, following the Kitchen Confidential footprint.
You're not
like,
supposed to be a crazy sociopath?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's like that confusion, that line between fiction and entertainment and reality. They're two very different things.
Hell's Kitchen, as much as I love it, it very much makes me not love going to restaurants.
Yeah.
Because when I think about the savages that are making my food in the back, and I know that they're not.
Yeah.
But has to be, I mean, so yeah, let's segue into back of the house type stuff.
Well, I just want to add to that really quick that people confuse what a game show is on television with the real world. Like, you know, how we have a game show host as our president right now.
Sure.
Because people thought that that's how things are run. And it's the same thing in the kitchen. One is a game show and then there's real life. You know, when there was that whole hoopla you said about us coming down, chefs don't make a lot of money. So it's not like, oh, wow, celebrity chefs. It's like, no, guess what? You're going to make $6 an hour in this business.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like Ramsay's English kitchen nightmares as opposed to the American kitchen nightmares. Because on the English one, it's obvious that he spends 3 weeks there and he's like really nice to everyone. I mean, he's nice. He yells, but it's like, what are you doing? No, come on. And like,
it's all produced. Like once you've done enough of these shows, which I've had, and in enough meaning like one, you can tell exactly what is going on in that show, what the producers are making them say, and what lines are being fed. You know, I can't
where
watch
the cuts are.
I can't watch anything on like HGTV or Food Network or because I know the pattern. I know what's going to happen, and I know what they're making you say.
have you done TV stuff?
I did Chopped, which I didn't want to do, and I hope I never do again. The entire time I'm like, please let me go home.
What were your ingredients?
I don't even remember. It was like so long ago. I just remembered I got there. The day starts, and this is TV time for you. The day started for me at like 4:30 in the morning, and I got out at midnight. And that's a show that's cooking in real time.
A guy who writes for Deadspin, Drew McGarry, was on Chopped, and he tells stories like that.
Yeah, I wrote about it for Medium years ago about kind of like what happened. Because the cooking is in real time, but you understand that there's all sorts of little things that they do to break contestants. And I knew this because I have friends in the TV business. They're like, okay, so we're going to put you in this room to be interviewed, and we're going to turn off the lights real quick. We're going to be right in, and then they leave you for an hour and a half. You know, or, you know, they're like, oh, I'll have somebody to get you a cup of coffee. And then they show up half an hour later with a tiny little styrofoam cup, and it's only half full, and it's like lukewarm instant coffee. Like little things like that.
And you have to make like twice the amount of dishes that they actually show on TV.
That part I cannot remember. But I can remember all the little psychological torture stuff because I knew it was happening, and I had a friend who went on before me, and she's like, they tampered with my things, but like my oven knobs between takes, or
because they need to be able to yell at you for not like the stove's not on, like, well, you broke my shit.
Yeah, I mean, if things just go smoothly, there's no drama. So you kind of notice all these little points, and I think it was like a year before I even went on Chopped. I had these two customers walk into my shop when we were in downtown Brooklyn and just making chit chat. And one of them was a television writer, and she had apparently written for Saved by the Bell. So I made her stay there for like an hour and talk to me.
Oh.
And and the person she was with was a line producer, and she said that her best friend was working on The Bachelor.
Which is my favorite show.
Yes, and she had a job title, like, the official one was like associate line producer number 1 or something, but the unofficial title was the producer of Bad Decisions.
Yeah.
And it was her job to make the girls do the craziest, most irrational possible things that they could think of.
They don't tell them to drink. They tell them to do stupid shit.
Yeah. So like she'd be the one coming up to a girl after, she got her heart broken, be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, like he shouldn't have said that to you. And like, I can't tell you what to do, but like, if that was me,
I'd throw my shoe at him.
I would just, if you're thinking about him, if he's on the date with this other girl and you're still thinking about it, he deserves to know now,
yes.
And she was like, she hates her job. She hates, like, she's like, we all get into this business wanting to work for like CNN or, go work in Kuwait or something. And she's like, and now she's making her breakup dates on television, but she gets paid well. So understanding that before you kind of go in to do anything on TV, it kind of shatters the glass a little bit, but it makes you kind of understand why you shouldn't elect a game show host to be your president.
Absolutely.
Tying it all together.
Absolutely. All right. So, this week, unfortunately, back of the house stuff, and because it all really ties in. This week, the world lost one of the great promoters of food internationally, Anthony Bourdain. Anthony was someone you knew. It's weird when somebody dies, a celebrity dies, because I know him as Anthony Bourdain. Yeah. But there are lots of articles and tweets where everyone calls him Tony. Yeah. And it's very humanizing. Tell us about Anthony Bourdain. Tell us how you know him. And I know it also ties into another big story. The Mario Batali thing.
Yeah. Like I'm still in shock about Tony, and I'm honest, and I didn't know him as well as not most of my friends, but a lot of other people I know did. I've been friends with his right-hand woman for years, but I was never really kind of big on him because there is this ridiculous kind of cult around him in the industry, and a lot of us, especially the women, felt like this because, part of the whole Me Too and the Mario thing isn't just about the sexual harassment and stuff, but it's about where the spotlight falls. And it was always like, I remember going to events with, where he'd be there and he'd kind of have like his own section and his own white couches and, the right people would be up there and like the men that they approved, like the cool kids club. And there weren't ever any women up there. And anytime something would happen in the food world and, the mainstream media needed a quote, like, what does Tony Bourdain think about this? And it was the same thing in Esquire. Like every third or fourth article they ran had something to do with him. And that really kind of came to a head for me around the time that Batali, like, it wasn't really that it came to a head for me before that. I mean, me and many other women felt the same way, but nobody really listened until the Batali thing happened. And him and I, again, like, we'd see each other at events, but like, I never really developed a personal relationship with him. I didn't want to. When I first got into kitchens, I was mercilessly bullied by these men who, like, they would read Kitchen Confidential between shifts. Like, it was just like, the book had just come out. It was like this bro Bible. It, and it rewarded very bad culture. It punished other people. It was not.
And it's interesting that you say that because I actually haven't read the book, but what I have read about it, it seems like a cautionary tale. It does not. This is not Anthony Bourdain saying, "Hey, here's how you do it."
Yeah.
This is him saying, "Here are all my fuck ups, and yet I'm still here."
Well, that's what happened when like him and I eventually started talking. It was around the Bourdain thing, and I told him like all this stuff I just told you. I told him, and he agreed with it. He's like, "Listen," he's like, "When I wrote the book, I'm just hoping that somebody's going to read it."
Right.
I didn't think anybody was going to read it or buy it or then take it the wrong way. And he understood his role in that, and he understood the role in meathead culture. Was he perfect about changing it? No.
It's also not his job to change it.
Yeah. It's very weird. Like you kind of understand that once you put something off into the world, you don't have that kind of control over it anymore.
Right.
Like it belongs to everybody else. And like I had a really great talk with a friend of mine who's a pastor on Friday. right after Tony died, and he was like consoling me, and I kind of started seeing some parallels. We were just talking about the nature of religion and like God putting out the Bible, and if he came out and saw what everybody was doing with it now, he'd be like, no, dude, this is not what I wrote about.
Jesus did not invent the Catholic Church.
Yes, Jesus would be like, no, this is you're getting everything wrong. And I kind of laughed when we got to that point because it reminded me of this conversation I had with him. He's like, I just wanted people to read it. And he's like, I don't know what I'm doing, just like any of us are. And he's like, and I'm just trying to do the best I can. And then he felt he really had done a disservice to women about not kind of knowing this stuff for a while. And I was like, listen, Mario, this wasn't a surprise to any of us.
Yeah,
we knew.
And in case people don't know, when the allegations against Mario Batali and his business partner, who isn't on TV, so I don't know his name.
Joe, he's worse. He's on MasterChef, actually. He is worse.
Oh, that's the guy. That's the bald guy.
He is worse. And he's about Joe Bastianich. He's about to get away with everything. And he is a terrible human being.
I don't necessarily love the way he talks to the kids.
Well, good. We should do something about that. Also, Lydia, his mother, once got sued for keeping a sleeve because she did that.
Because all the restaurants were his mom's restaurants that he took over, and
I don't remember the entire legal structure, but it's Batali and Bastianich. That's the group. It's the two of them together. But yeah, so Joe is. Oh, you go ahead. I interrupted.
No, which is fine because you know the information, and I'm asking questions, so I need you to answer.
Yeah.
You went on a tweet storm, which
many.
But
thing.
which was what I think everybody was doing like 6 months ago. There were lots of tweet storms. It was the beginning of the Me Too movement. Like
it was, it wasn't just for me something that happened 6 months ago because this is such a big story and we're bouncing around all of it. But before we moved to Baltimore, my husband got really, really, really sick. So we got out of the kitchen. We closed for the past 2 years, and I've been working as a food writer. And for me, it's weird because I'm in this gray area between the press, who I love, and I understand a lot of what they do, and I worked in it now, and then being a restaurateur and somebody who's spent most of her time in the restaurant world and actually working. And as a person who's owned a business and understands the little finer points of being an entrepreneur and all that crap. So, with Mario and with all of them, I've been kind of poking bears for a very long time. And like some of my good friends, like Amanda Cohen from Dirt Candy and all this, like we've been kind of the go-to anytime somebody needed a quote about feminism for the past like 10 years or so. And we'd, have a quote or we'd write an article and everybody'd be like, yeah, girl power. And then it would just go to the status quo.
Your quote in the Sun, I thrive on male tears.
I can't believe they
I can't believe they printed it either. To be honest, I'm like, they should not have printed that quote.
I was in the car driving my kids home from school when I gave that quote. They're in the back seat and I'm on the speakerphone talking to him about that. But yeah, we've just been doing this for so long and saying like, you should write about this, or we know this bad guy is doing this bad thing and you keep reviewing his restaurants. And this is not just Mario specific, over and over and over again. And in food, as in many of the other industries in life, the bad guys win a lot. When you look at like all these celebrity chef restaurants, 95% or more of the time, it's a man. All these big development deals, lots of things with hotels and expansion, it always goes to men.
Sure. The first three restaurants in the casino were Guy Fieri, Bobby Flay, Guy Fieri was there, and there's a Ramsey one, and now they have Giada.
Yeah, but these are all licensing deals. Remember, it's not like Gordon Ramsay is actually there, like opening a restaurant.
Are any of these guys in the restaurants anymore?
Never.
Oh,
never. It's because it's a business. Like even by the time I opened up my place, I was almost never in the kitchen because there's so much paperwork to do. And when you're a Food Network star, you're essentially licensing out your name to a larger group.
Gotcha.
So it's just, but you have that certain celebrity, that star power. So another group is opening it. They're slapping your face on it. And men are the ones who are getting those deals. And there's a lot of very bad men who do it. And the problem with Mario, it's not about making dumb jokes. It's not about a lot of the stuff that people are mistaking Me Too for. It's about power.
Right.
It's that abuse of power and that idea that you're above the law. And if you know what you are doing is wrong and you don't care, that's the problem. That's the problem with Weinstein. He knew that these things were wrong. You know, you don't rape people, but you think I'm Harvey Weinstein and I can do whatever I want.
And it's interesting that you and Bourdain came together in that moment because his girlfriend, Asia Argento, was a main target of Harvey Weinstein.
That was actually like our entire relationship. Like Tony and I never talked about food. We talked about Asia. And I'm not going to go into too many specifics here because it's personal, but that's really where my relationship was with him, was about women and seeing him. And kind of like there were like there was Anthony Bourdain, the guy that I hated in the media, and Tony Bourdain, or Anthony Bourdain, the guy who had this macho cult around him. And then there was Tony Bourdain, the guy I realized never really asked for that cult, wanted to get better, wanted to do well by Asia, who he really loved. Like, I could just tell, like, he would have moved mountains for this woman. Tony Bourdain, the guy who was a father who wanted to make the world a better place for women, who wanted to constantly keep growing and undo mistakes and try to undo some of the damage that he had done inadvertently with Kitchen Confidential, which he's like, I just wanted people to buy the book. I didn't know that they were going to do this, So yeah, I mean, I was shocked as hell on was it Friday? I was waking up and I was getting dressed and the kids were going to school. I was driving Matt to work and he just screams. He's like, Bourdain is dead. Just screams it up the stairs. And I'm like, what? And it just became back and forth. He's like, I said Bourdain is dead. And I'm like, this is more of a rhetorical what, Matt, that I keep screaming down the stairs. It's not like I can't hear you. And then, a bunch of my friends start calling from all over the industry and we're just all screaming like what into the phones. I mean, and we had talked a few days earlier again about sexual assault in Asia, and I don't know. I've also suffered from bipolar depression since I was a kid, from like junior high, essentially. And the thing about the depressed brain is that you can maybe sympathize with it, but you'll never know it, and you'll never really understand it. And there's no point in me or anyone else trying to figure out why he did it or how he did it or what did he feel or what any of us could have said or done or, to make it better. It is what it is. And all I can do is say right now, like, one thing I know that Tony, and I think everybody knows this about Tony, is that he wanted us to look at the gross parts of life, of food, of life, of our own biases, of our own fears, and really get into them and go head first into those dark moments, into the dark side of politics and religion and everything. And I think that that's something we really need to do now. And not that it's special. We've always needed to do it, but it's always been so hard to get people to that point. We did it a little bit with Robin Williams and then with Chris Cornell and, with Kate Spade and Lorenz Scott and, now with him. And I think that that's the best possible thing we could be doing at this moment, is just really going kind of head first into that mental health discussion, like, and listening. I mean, if you don't get it, listen. And if you don't get it, please ask questions to people like me who do get it. And, and like, we want to help. We just want to get this conversation going forward.
He was somebody who loved to get his hands dirty. Mm-hmm. And in life, I mean, that was what he was about. And when you say he wanted people to explore, when I was working the morning show, mm-hmm. The JoJo and Reagan show, Bourdain, that was when his Baltimore episode came out. Mm-hmm. And he had gone to this place called The Roost, which was I
know The Roost. It's right by my kid's school.
Yeah. Well, I think it's closed. I don't think it.
No, it's open.
Is it still open? Oh, great.
It looks like it's closed, but it's still open.
Oh, shit. It looked like it closed when we went. It looked closed when it went. But we went because Bourdain went there.
Yeah.
I mean, and we wanted to try it. I mean, like, at best, the best I think you can say about somebody is that he inspired me to do something new.
Yeah.
And like, directly.
And that's the legacy I think he's going to end up leaving behind. And that's, the legacy I've realized, I mean, and this is only 2 days ago, and I've been doing a lot of, thinking about this, but that's really what we are in the end, like, we're all going to die. All of us. And you can't stop that, and you can't just sit and mourn, and you just realize, like, what was our purpose while we were here? Like, what did we get people to do? And he was, he was an instigator. Even like he said things I didn't believe in. He said things that I still don't agree with, but he got me to talk about them and he got me to think about them. And that's remarkable. It's remarkable how many people he's done that to and touched and opened up conversations for better or for worse. And I think that this is something that as again, somebody who suffered from mental illness for a very long time has thought that this is overdue, and if it brings more people to the table to talk about this, then I'm stoked.
There's been a lot of talk about the mental illness. One thing I'm surprised I haven't seen, and this is it's mildly specific to restaurants, but substance abuse in the back of the house. Now I've worked 2 restaurant jobs in my life. One at Snyder's Deli in Owings Mills, which is not exactly a normal kitchen. And then I worked at a place over in Little Italy for 3 months before they fired me. People were drunk a lot. Yeah. Everybody was stoned. How it's not the most stable of work environments.
Not at all.
Is it what is it about the restaurant industry, the kitchen? Is it the creative mind? Are they all Vincent Van Goghs?
I had this talk with, I was actually speaking to, I think it was Eater a few weeks ago about this because they're trying to do something about sobriety. And, a few years ago, I made the conscious decision about all the things that I'm somewhat ashamed of that I shouldn't be ashamed of. I'm like, I'm just going to start talking about them, whether or not I'm comfortable, because, we have these stigmas in place and you're like, oh, I wish somebody would break the stigma. But if you're sitting there and you're not saying anything, you're just feeding into it. And I'm like, and I can't be a little pussy and sit around and wait for someone else to do it. So I'm like, I'm talking about the fact I'm sober. I'm talking about the fact that I have depression. I'm talking about all these things. And Eater is like, well, what is it about the kitchens that made you do it? And I was like, no, I'm like, I was like this before I went in. And as somebody who, you kind of hate yourself a little bit and you like drinking too much and you like self-destructing and, the kitchens are a beautiful place to work because I can go in at 1:00 in the afternoon and I leave at midnight and I don't have to see anybody in the real world. Everybody else there also fucked up. There's, you're running on straight adrenaline and everything is like life or death. And, if you have ADHD, everything is firing off at the same time. And for other people who like the fine dining, the meticulous of it, like your entire life, your entire brain, everything is chaos. But when you're in front of a stove, you can control things. You control that little earth on the plate. You know exactly how to cook things specifically right. And then just nailing it and creating that little perfect universe. Even if somebody's just eating it and, they're pooping it out later, it turns into poop, all of this stuff. But in those moments, you're able to kind of tame that chaos and be like, I am the god of this world. So I think everybody's sometimes looking backwards at it. It's like, oh, the food's not making you like this. This is just the only place that somebody like you can function. When I got into the business, everybody was like an undocumented immigrant, had just been released from prison. Had just gotten out of rehab. Like these are jobs you could get, you paid in cash in restaurants. So you didn't have to have an employment record. Nobody cared if you were a felon.
The movie Waiting, I think is a terrible movie, but actually super diverse. And I think a pretty good glimpse of behind the house, back of the house,
we're not
attitude.
We're not perfect people, but that idea of like, yes, do we need a better kitchen culture? Yes, because we were all really fucked up people going in and we need supervision. We can't be saying, oh, it's all right if we're all on drugs and yelling at each other. Like that's, that's a terrible idea. It's just a terrible idea. If you have a bunch of people with problems, you just don't put them in a room and just be like, go have fun in there. You put them in a room and you say, okay, let's figure out why everybody is drinking so much and on so much cocaine.
And every 20 minutes, a hostess in a slinky dress walks back to get yelled at.
It's like, why don't you respect women? Let's talk about that. Not just be like, oh, well, that's the last place you can go. I mean, I'm okay with dirty jokes. I make vulgar, inappropriate jokes all the damn time. But if you're pushing me up against me in the walk-in and grinding your dick into my ass and saying that I will get fired if I say anything, that's not a dirty joke. And that's where I think a lot of people kind of got confused when we were talking about the Me Too. There's a big difference there. And this isn't like war against white straight men. It's just be like, hey, you know, treat us like human beings.
You know, talk about generic tits. Don't talk about my tits.
Thank you. It's tits in the general sense that we can all enjoy them.
Yeah.
Generic tits, titled the episode.
Nailed it. It's been a while.
That is actually, I think that's the perfect title for something I'm on. I'm actually kind of crying a little bit over that.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's funny. I was also, you say, you know, the kitchen's like, you know, don't mess with the kitchen culture.
Yeah.
I was reading an article today about Me Too in academia. You know, what does it mean for people with tenure? A lot of these celebrity chefs, they felt like they, you know, whatever accounts to tenure in the restaurant industry, they thought they were untouchable. So going forward, like, what do you do? I mean, like, is it just have a lot of these conversations a lot of the time?
Have a lot of conversations. Like, talk about stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable. You know, I remember when Hell's Kitchen first came out, my husband and I used to watch it, and we would yell along with Gordon at the contestants. And part of us, for a long time, kind of felt upset about the changing kitchen culture because we had survived it. And it was like, you fuckers get out with a free pass. And like what I had to go through.
Right.
And I think that's just a general, like, changing of times thing. When you were taught that you're going to go through hell, like boot camp sort of hell, and burns, and be sick on the line and be yelled at because, you know, like, oh, you took a sick day, you know, you're a weak person. And it was not just about food. It wasn't about cooking that culture. It was about, like, being a broken person and sort of, like, making a go of it and having those scars. You know, you always hear line cooks talking about scars. No other industry talks about that like it's a good thing. But it's like, oh, look at the scar. Look at the things I survived, you know? And the idea of it not having to be like a survival challenge anymore, that's sort of like, part of it makes you think like the other people are weak because there's so much brainwashing in you.
But then why should they have to survive? Why survive? Why not thrive? That sort of
exactly.
thing.
And it's like, if it was this easy, if you could just go to work, be respected, do a good job, and make a good salary, then why didn't I get to do that 10 years ago? Like 15 an hour. When in my day, I ate nothing and I liked it.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, so they should have to eat nothing, or maybe everybody should get to eat.
Yeah. But then, there's a lot of conversations that we have to have, not just in kitchen culture, but with consumer culture as well, because things aren't balanced equally. Like the way, like, everybody wants workers to be paid fairly, right? I want that. All of us think it's a great idea. Okay. So what about the farm workers? Well, will they be, you know, like, or this is great for Baltimore centric. Look at the crab cleaners, the crab pickers.
Right.
Everybody wants them paid fairly. Well, now crabs are going to cost like how many dollars a pound? Okay.
That market price goes up
a lot. And then you bring it to a restaurant and, well, everybody's fairly treated here and they get paid well and they're going to get benefits. And now how much does your food cost?
Right.
You know, and everything keeps going up and up and up. And then you think about, well, you know, your landlord needs to get paid, and then your exterminator, he deserves a good life. So he should be able to charge market rents. And that's where everything is completely out of whack. And if consumers are not willing to pay the prices for people to have good lives, it's like you have to kind of consider, well, what's my role in this? As somebody who goes and he dines out and eats out, you know, like, how am I helping my economy be better?
Add to that, I think the casual restaurant goer is a worse tipper now than they were, you know, 20 years. I'm not you, Caitlin. Yeah. You're just a bad tipper to begin with.
But then the problem too with tipping is, say, you know, like, all of us have lower wages or stagnant wages. Or this is at least my opinion in New York City. In Baltimore, there's a little bit more room to be like, live like a human being, which I'm still adjusting to 2 years later. But if you have a budget of like $100 and you take a family of, or like 2 people out for dinner, and you go to a local restaurant and you're responsible, like, how much money do you have to leave for a tip if you've already bought this food that is, everybody is being paid fairly in the back of the house, but not the front of the house?
Right.
Why is the front of the house performing for their salary and like just hoping that they do good enough job that they'll win a couple of extra dollars or get a nice table? That's ridiculous. You know, and then incorporate the service charge in, and then people freak out and go, dining in is too expensive. I'm not going to go anywhere. So they stay home, and then they're like, all the restaurants are closing in Baltimore. Nobody should come to Baltimore anymore because the restaurants are closing. And ruffians have taken over the streets. It's the ruffians' fault. It's not ours.
Suspicious youths. That's what we call them.
The youths have destroyed Baltimore by not eating at their restaurants 5 nights a week.
Yep.
Right? Like I don't know why that group of 13-year-old black kids aren't going to Clavel all the time.
I know.
But I mean, the restaurants are closing.
It's their fault, obviously. But there is a lot to be said. And I've been a small business owner for 10 years. Your community is dependent on you.
Right.
I see this a lot more here than I did up there. I see more people willing to listen to that down here than they were in New York. If you want the restaurants in your neighborhood to stay, you need to eat there. If you want the shops to, if you want your main street to look charming, you need to go to those shops and support them. Maybe you can't afford to buy everything there. That's fine, but you still have to throw some money down there. And when your favorite place closed, don't just be like, oh man, this is terrible. Well, I moved to the county years ago, but, because the people who stay behind where you grew up, their job is not to keep everything like a museum for you for when you want to come back and visit it. Baltimore is a living, breathing city. If you want things to be nice, you need to come here and spend money and chip in on the neighborhood. You need to be paying taxes here. If you decide I'm going to move somewhere else and give them the taxes, at least come here and shop so your sales tax goes into here.
Right.
Things are what you make it. Everything is connected. The food business, the labor business, everything in a city and in the world is connected.
Everything the light touches. It's the circle of life of economics.
So if we want the kitchen culture to get better, we need to talk about it, not just with each other, but with the public. We need to they need to understand the truth of what's happening. It's not all Bobby Flay on TV. It's not all the Robicellis are moving in their fur coats and gold limos to Baltimore.
No, often it's Tyrone who's been working in kitchens since he was 15 years old.
The Robicellis came down here in a 2002 Honda Civic with holes in its rack and pinion system and 3 cats in the back seat with the 2 children. There were no limousines. Ask questions. Find out why these things are happening. Just talk to me. If you have questions, don't just go to the internet. I'm on Twitter. Tweet me. I'll answer them. It's easy.
No, I saved them all for this. I don't know if I have any more questions.
No.
After
and
today.
You're my neighbor, so you could come over and touch my fire pit.
I would love to touch
I wish
your
I
fire
had known
pit.
this when I actually lived in Big
Yeah.
Bend.
Too bad.
You should come move back. We have a great time over there.
So you said you have two kids, 2 boys?
2 boys. Yep.
How are they with food? Are they picky eaters?
Oh my God, they're so fucking picky. They're such assholes, and they're picky for different things. So the 2 of them are like conspiring against me. Like one will only eat meat and the other one will only eat cheese. And now the oldest one is starting puberty, so he needs to eat like 90 times a day. And he's like, I want a steak. I'm like, yeah, no. And I'm like, you're going to eat these sunflower seeds. I don't like seeds. I'm like, well, then you're going to die. I'm sorry.
How does that feel as a chef?
It's horrible.
To have picky eaters?
It is horrible. It is. It is, and especially like I'll do book signings and stuff, and people come up and like, oh, your kids must eat so well. And I'm like, yeah, they had a microwave pizza last night because I'm fucking done. They could just go out into the garbage if they want. We had to stop giving them allowances because they said my food tasted like garbage because it had healthy things in it. So they would take their allowances, go to Dollar General and buy like microwave chicken sandwiches.
Brutal.
Yeah. And I was like, I hate you all.
Like, I'll make you a chicken sandwich.
Yes. And then I went to Atticus's therapist. I put both my kids in therapy because again, I said I have bipolar depression. I have had my kids in therapy since they were 6, just in case. I want them like headed off at the pass if anything happens. I make him go to therapy so we could talk about my problem with his picky eating. And I am in this room, this beautiful like Mount Vernon office with like pocket doors and stained glasses, but and I'm sobbing. I am sobbing. And the therapist, who has a tweed jacket and elbow patches, seriously, it happened, so I had to add it. And he's like, Atticus, he's like, why won't you eat your mother cooking? He's like, I don't trust her. And I'm like,
oh, Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, I have a James Beard nomination. What do you need? What do you need? I'm like, I have things, here's things in the New York Times. Trust me. So
that's
like,
amazing.
I want chicken nuggets.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're
they better be fucking dinosaur shaped or I'm not eating them.
Yes, if you are a parent listening to this, just know that even if you have a book of professional, like, references, your kids just do not care.
Casey's gonna have a baby in a month.
Yeah. Which is, and I can relate to this because my wife teaches like food science and she's always like trying to new recipes and we like to cook. And I know that this is going to be me in 10 years.
Yeah. I've got one friend and one of his daughters is like just the best. Like they cook together. They'll eat anything together. And I'm like,
the MasterChef Junior kids are my favorite.
Yeah. I'm like, who the fuck are these kids? Like, go out and play with somebody. Go roll around the mud and go pick up some broken glass, kids.
It's funny on that show. It's funny, like the macho boys who are, the 10-year-old kids who are like, oh yeah, I don't like it, but when my soccer team finds out I cook because they always make fun of me. And then there's always the young boys who are very easily budding homosexuals. Yeah. And it's like, these are two groups that did not mix when I was a kid, but now they have the cooking that brings them together.
That's so sweet. Because food does bring everybody together. That's the thing about food. It sometimes brings people together. I don't like eating with people though. I used to be really scared of it, like in college. I was like, if people didn't want to eat with you, I thought everyone would be weird. So I used to set up these elaborate things in the dining hall where I'm like, I have a ton of books because I'm just too busy to eat with people. And now, like, all I want to do is eat alone and not be bothered by anybody.
Oh, like Brittany Murphy in Girl Interrupted.
Yes. I'm just like, please don't talk to me. I'm like, I just like love going to like a Japanese, like ramen counter or something because they really make a point of not speaking to you at all. And I'm like, that's it. I'm like, I just want to sit here and like do a New York Times crossword puzzle on my phone and eat my bowl of soup and just not be brought together with anybody. Thank you, food.
I remember I spent a summer eating and reading at a Five Guys. Like it just opened up in Reisterstown.
That sounds weird. That's really weird.
This is the summer of Five Guys.
No, well,
I know what Five Guys you're talking about.
It had just opened, and I'm like, well, I don't have to eat anyplace else ever again.
It's on a college campus, right?
Oh no, it's in Reisterstown. It's like in a strip mall in Reisterstown.
Yeah, but you could choose your own toppings, so every day's an adventure.
Yeah, except unless you just get everything on it every time.
Limitless options.
Yeah,
is that different than the one in Owings Mills?
No, yes. Oh, yeah. The one in Owings Mills.
Yeah, it's on a college campus.
It's on the Village Julie campus, or Stevenson campus. I was going to the one in Reisterstown. So one last thing I want to cover. You said your husband got sick. You also got sick as well.
I got sick. I got sick when I was 21. I found out 5 days before my 21st birthday. I had stage 4 cancer, which was awesome.
But it's since led to you becoming a bit of a weed activist as well.
I love weed. That's fantastic.
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a weed activist, but I like using it. I find it weird because people are like, oh, you don't talk about weed enough. And I'm like, well, listen, people who drink shouldn't be talking about the fact that they drink all the time. Like, that's alcoholism. It's like, I'm going to, everybody's raising their head. But it's like, it's just my thing. Like, I don't drink alcohol. I like weed. It makes me feel better. It helps me deal with a lot of pain in my body. My husband was a 9/11 first responder, and he has PTSD, and he had a lot of health. We just found out he has something called Still's disease, which is why he's been getting sick nonstop for 13 years. It's an autoimmune disorder. So, like, randomly his body would shut down, like, his heart. And he was getting all these infections.
And he got that from 9/11 dust or whatever.
Maybe.
World Trade Center dust.
9/11 dust.
No, there are.
We call it 9/11 dust. It's the correct term.
But there are lots of stories about, because of all the asbestos and all the shit in the air, the first responders, they've been sick for years and they've gotten no backup from.
And we don't know what it is. But we just found out, it was maybe like a month or so ago that we found out from University of Maryland here that it was Still's disease. And it's not an easy, disease to find out you have because you have to exclude like 100 other things. And when you do this 100 other things, like, well, it's none of this. Well, I guess it's Still's disease then. But then we got to call the CDC and they were very excited to find out that we had Still's disease because they are seeing an uptick in, autoimmune disorders from 9/11 first responders, but mostly it's arthritis. Very few have Still's because there's literally a 1 in a million chance, literally a 1 in a million chance of getting this. So Matt's quite popular down at the CDC right now.
It's very bad when doctors are excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
They're not naming him after him. So that is good.
Stephen Stills, I assume.
Probably, yes, him. And
he's Crosby Stills.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash,
yeah.
and he's got this disease.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, weed has been remarkable for him. He uses it every day. I use it every night for my insomnia. And aside from that, like, I just find it's better than alcohol. I don't drink too much of it. I've never, polished off a bottle or two of, weed. I can stop. There's no hangover. You look at this guy, and when did you stop drinking? How many days ago?
3 hours ago?
Last night.
It was last night, and looked like he wants to die. That does not happen with weed. You don't usually.
Truth be told, first time in 5 years I've ever recorded this show, and I've been contemplating just going upstairs and going to bed while you guys record.
Yeah.
No, I need you to stop it because I don't know how to save it or anything.
Yeah.
But I don't, you don't get addicted. You don't get sick. It has a lot of health benefits. It helps, it's helped my skin. It helps my bones. It helps pain relief. It's not, I get bad pain from cancer sometimes, like residual bone pain. I'm not on OxyContin.
Right.
I'm not addicted to anything. And it's this is if you had told me, all those things you hear about cannabis, it cures, and you're like, there's no way it could fix all those things. And I swear to God, it is a wonder drug. If I didn't use it, I wouldn't believe it, but it's changed my life.
And it does intersect with food so well. You can put it in it, and you can eat it after you're done smoking, and it's just...
Dude, last night, for the first time in my life, I went to a Krispy Kreme donut.
Hot. Were they hot? Yeah.
They opened up one in Catonsville.
Yep.
And I didn't grow up anywhere near Krispy. That was a Southern thing. And I'd heard, and we went out there for Chinese food, and Matt's like, the light's on, let's go. And I'm like, all right, how great could this be? So I ended up coming home with 24 donuts for me and Matt. This is not a joke. And I was sad because of Tony, and we smoked a lot of weed. I also got 2 apple fritters. So there was 2 boxes of donuts, 2 apple fritters. I ate
It was Saturday.
Yeah, I ate a dozen donuts last night, and a jug of milk while I was high. And this morning, I wasn't hungover. I was just I shouldn't do that a lot, should only do that once in a while. Do I regret it? No, it was wonderful. I loved every single moment about it. They were also
amazing.
They were also playing Paul Anka, in the Krispy Kreme. He did an album of rock covers and swing.
Okay.
Like Black Hole Sun. So there's Paul Anka singing Black Hole Sun.
Why do I think I've sent this out to our group text before?
Yeah. While I'm watching these Krispy Kreme donuts get made, it was
Pat Boone in a metal mood.
In my eyes.
Yes.
Indisposed.
That's exactly what it was.
In disguise as no one knows.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It's so yeah, you don't say anything you regret. You don't have to be like, oh, I've got to go back and apologize to all these people I cursed out last night, or all these drunk texts I send. It's a far better thing. I was going to bring you edibles today, but I had a really shitty weekend and I forgot to bake them. Next time.
Like I said, it's basically asking you to work, and I didn't like doing it in the first place.
Well, now I have to come back and do the show again. And
it's a great excuse.
If we must.
It's a weed show.
So I guess the last question I have is, what are your favorite places in town? Where do you like to go?
God,
where do you eat?
I love this city so much. I wish people always laugh when I say it, but I really, really love Baltimore. I love living here. I wish I had done it 10 years ago. All of my friends who come from New York, they come here and they're like, wow, we get it. It's like you can't see the forest for the trees thing sometimes.
Sure.
I thought when people were all over Brooklyn, I was like, this shithole, what the fuck? This place?
Why do people want to come to Williamsburg? There's nothing but Orthodox Jews there.
Yeah, or what? Coney Island? There's a gang war there. Why the fuck are you going to Coney Island? It's covered in needles.
Did you not see Requiem for a Dream?
Did you not see The Warriors? I mean, this shit happened.
Little known fact, that was a documentary.
The Warrior, right?
That tonight.
Our first year here, this is total tangent, but our first year here, we did trunk or treat at my kid's school, which was something we'd never heard of before.
Okay.
Our family dressed up as the Warriors, and nobody knew what we were. Which might have to do with the fact it was elementary school, or the fact that, it's not a Baltimore movie, but if you're in the city, you should watch The Warriors. It's fantastic. But yeah, so my favorite places, I live in Pigtown. I go to Breaking Bread all the time. Their wings you have to eat them in.
Sticky wings.
My review is in the window, or at least it was at one point.
Yeah, the delivery wings will never be as good as the real thing, but Breaking Bad is the shit when it comes to wings. Best Crabs, which is on the west side. I love Pioneer Pit Beef, which is
It's an up and comer all of a sudden. I'm hearing about it all the time.
That's been my pick since the beginning. I just love that place because I feel like if you're eating pit beef, it should be next to a dumpster on a broken picnic table next to a shack beneath an overpass on a highway.
Well, Chap's got that Guy Fieri boost.
Yeah, but it's in the strip club parking lot. But so it's kind of like
you're going there anyway.
Two for thing, But I like the atmosphere of sitting next to a dumpster. That's just my thing. Right. I was at Hunan Taste last night, which is my favorite Chinese restaurant in Catonsville. It's a little gem next to H Mart. Hone's Bakery makes the best freaking donuts in the universe.
Next to my house.
It's. I would move to Highlandtown just for Hone's, and they make this cheesecake. Oh my god, it's so good. It's just so ridiculously good. I think those are the things we really crave. Like, we'll wake up and drive across town for Hone's or to Broadway Diner, which is the perfect diner. What are you?
She's yelling about Hone's Bakery.
Sorry.
Crosstalk, we call this.
Crosstalk. No, it's wonderful. And the cheesecake. Yeah, Hone's is on Conkling and 1 block north of Eastern, which is something. It's kitty corner from Venice Tavern. Yeah, I mean, and what I love about Baltimore too is like there's always something to explore. Like the other day, again, we'll bring it back to Tony. Like, I just couldn't work. I didn't want to open my computer or my phone because I didn't want to be anywhere near the internet. And I was like, I'm just going to drive. And that's it. And you just get in your car and you drive. And I found this great little vintage shop in Govins, which is it's on York Road across from the Wendy's.
In my old neighborhood?
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was by my friend's house on Paddington Road, and then I found this little street. I didn't get the name of it, but it had a really nice tree, and I just sat underneath it. And, there's just so much to discover here. I mean, it's really like just this big treasure hunt, and you could just enjoy exactly what's underneath your feet. And I keep discovering more stuff that I don't know about, and I love that. I also love the fact that you could drive outside the city for 15 minutes and see a horse.
Yeah.
I did not know that this was a possibility. You drive 15 minutes in Brooklyn, you're still in Brooklyn, and you're like 20 feet away from your house screaming at some asshole in front of you to move their fucking car.
One of my buddies from Long Island, when he came down for Towson to go to school at Towson, which is where people go if they're from Long Island, he's like, oh, is that a deer? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's the first one of those I've ever seen. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I saw a raccoon on my block and I chased him, and my husband was yelling at me. He's like, don't chase a raccoon. I'm like, but he's adorable. And I just wanted to look at him close. And I did. And I didn't touch him because I'm not stupid. But I didn't see that at home or in old home. Last night, or 2 nights ago, I went to this place, Opie's in Catonsville. And it's like being in the middle of frickin' Central Jersey, where you're like sitting next to a shack and these kids are chasing fireflies. And it's like bucolic. And I'm like,
is it like an outdoor bar with an outdoor space?
It's like this little snowball stand.
Oh, okay.
It's this little snowball and soft serve stand that it feels like you're in the country, but you're 15 minutes from my house. It's like if you go to Hunan Taste and then you just drive south for like 5 blocks and you make a left on Evanston and it's 2 blocks in. Oh, yeah, that's my favorite place. Yeah.
Caitlin loves it.
And it's great. I love snowballs. I love the kind of it quality. And I'm on Twitter at Robicelli's. And if you have ideas or suggestions of places I should go and eat, please tell me. Please always tell me where to go. Except for crabs. I like crabs. I used to love crabs, but you guys are way too into crabs and it's kind of killing me.
I agree. I like a nice crab cake, but who wants to go through all the fucking trouble?
It's like, I like crab. I used to really love crabs, but now it's just like people are just crab. It's like, dude, just calm the fuck down.
It's 3 months of it. It's the worst.
Calm the fuck down. It's like, I don't like anything that much. I don't even like pizza that much. And I love pizza.
Right.
But it's like, just shut up.
I don't remember people being this excited for crabs.
Wait, that's how we end the show. Shut ups.
Oh,
shut the fuck up with crabs.
I actually have a shut up this week.
Okay, good. Well, we should do the other thing first. We're not going to take a break. We're just going to roll with it, dude.
Yeah.
All right, it's now time for the internet sensation.
Give me the tray.
Sweeping 92Q. It's time for shout outs.
I have it on my
love it. I love it.
For my children.
I love it.
Shoutouts. This is the part of the show in which we are not going to take a break, and we are going to give mad props, aka shoutouts, to persons, places, and things that are improving our quality of life and giving us
I do have shout
jollies.
Shout out.
My shout out is to traveling.
Being places.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed San Diego, and I plan on doing some more traveling after I stop vomiting.
Hippos.
And the shout out to the tiny baby hippo that I'm going to post the photo of in the Fam Zone Extreme.
You should get a baby hippo.
Therapy hippo.
Here's the problem with baby hippos. They become grown-up hippos.
Yeah.
They don't have like pygmy hippos. Or,
There are
no, wait,
pygmy
they have
hippos.
hippos. Yeah.
But I think they're also like 3,000 pounds. I mean, they're pygmy hippos. They're still hippos. They're
Science
big.
needs to get on this. Science needs to create like pocket hippos.
Yeah, we need to breed some tiny ass hippos.
You know what I learned? Like the pigs was like I don't know if they're called pygmy pigs. or
Teacup
whatever.
pigs?
Yeah, apparently they don't exist. It's just people being assholes and selling teacup pigs.
They do
I
exist.
feel like I held one once. It
Some-
was wonderful.
Yeah,
But then
some
they
people
grow
are
up.
just assholes who sell baby pigs that grow up.
You could rent those pigs. I was at a party once where you rented the teacup pigs, and we just all held them and cuddled them for like 2 hours, and then they took them back to Jersey.
Now it's your turn to take a chance.
And then made bacon.
No, you just caress the pig. It's like
Some
teacuppigs.com.
I
Yeah,
don't-
pigparties.com. I don't know if that's a real thing. Get them as a sponsor.
I've heard that they're asshole. Like pigs are assholes.
I bet, but I feel like a little tiny pig would be so fun.
We should look into this and then rent a bunch of pigs and do a show while we're all holding baby pigs.
Oh my god.
And you
really
could
fun.
probably use that as a write-off of some sort.
You can rent little animals to sit at your wedding and just like be there. Like, so at one of the wedding things we went to, there's a guy who like has the hawk, and the hawk will come
Falconry?
in with your
What?
ring.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have never been so excited by anything in my life. You could rent a hawk and make him do things for you.
The
But just the
falconer.
ring, but yes. And then there was this little baby owl, and the little, but it wasn't a baby; it was like a full size owl. But it was this little tiny thing, and you thought it wasn't real. And the guy's like, "Oh no, this is real." And he moves, and the thing goes like backs up, and everyone's like, "Holy shit, that's not just a stuffed
Is
animal."
this a wizard wedding? Like, what sort of wizard? Like, that they just have wild birds swooping into this wedding.
I wasn't there for it, so I don't know.
Oh, this was at like a event, like a venue's like, hey, have these things like.
I had a masturbating walrus at my wedding, and it was nowhere near as cool. We got married at the aquarium. The masturbating walrus just happened to be there. He's dead now,
What is
so
it? What
I'm sorry you
aquarium?
missed it. In the New York City, the Coney Island Aquarium.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was great. It was like, well, my
No, not your wedding. The idea of the cone. No, the masturbating walrus
we
sounds great.
specifically knew my great grandfather when we came from Italy. My great grandfather was the muralist at Luna Park. He painted all those drawings you see.
Okay.
And we knew that there was a masturbating walrus because we were just generally fans of him. So it just kind of came together in this beautiful Venn diagram of holy matrimony.
How is the Coney Island Aquarium? Yeah. We used to hang out at the seal tank at the National Aquarium.
Yeah.
Like when we were in college, there used to just be these seals that sat outside all night. And we used to just go hang out with them at like 2 a.m.
I mean, Coney Island Aquarium was like, and then Sandy came and wiped out half of it, and then I was like, But if you remember, you got free parking at Coney Island, so there was a lot of benefits.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we found a new title of the episode.
What's that?
The masturbating walrus.
All right, who else has got a shout out?
Right? Because it's also like Mary Batali.
Yes.
That was a good one, Brian.
Thank you.
So good. I'm so proud of you.
My shout out is, so I bought like a pretty full run of X-Files comics at the store the other day.
What?
There's like, it's like 40 issues. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
They're all like Monster of the Week stories from 1995.
I had them back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were great.
So what I've been doing is I've been watching all the standalone X-Files episodes, and wow, I've also been reading Lord of the Rings for like the 5th time, and I'm seeing that with fresh eyes again for some reason, and I'm watching these X-Files episodes with fresh eyes, and boy, is that a good show.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my kids into it now. And
I think it's too old.
Yeah, no, I'm just so desperate. I keep trying them on stuff that's too old for them and ruining them. Like I tried to get them into Doctor Who when they were 3, it didn't work. But then when they were 8, they finally, got into
Right,
it.
like making kids watch first season of Star Trek Next
Yeah, no, my
Generation.
kids did not like Star Trek, and I was like, but guys.
Well, you got to show them Star Trek Beyond first, the newest movie, and then let them watch like the good episodes of the original series,
Yeah.
and then make them watch all of Next Generation. By that point, they should be 13, 14, ready for Deep Space Nine.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I've been waiting on this for a long time. A long time.
So damn cool. Never get
Brian just caught him off.
It was impressive. We're all very aroused.
Any other shout outs?
No, that's it. Shout outs to the X-Files and Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're new or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll talk off air about that. Shout outs from the fam zone.
Yes.
Jeff Elkins. Shout out to me, as in Jeff Elkins, for my 6th novel going on sale. Go me.
Very good.
Yeah,
Go
that's,
me.
That's a big
AKA.
shout out. I have done nothing with my life. Continue.
Shout out from Keisha Allen. Shout out to dirt bikes, snowballs, and fireworks.
Summer.
That's unusual. We usually don't get shout outs for dirt bikes.
You know, there are certain things that I hate that still signify summer to me, and the dirt bikes are very much one of them.
I like to shout out all the people who are going to be posting, is that fireworks or gunshots?
Fireworks or gunshots.
On next door. Because that was Brooklyn too, and that really made me feel home. I'm like, oh, you play this game here too. Thank you.
I've played that game and called the cops.
Yes.
So.
Is it July 4th? Then it's gunshots. Continue with your day.
This is from me. Now keep in mind, I wrote this like Wednesday-ish before some other news came out. I'm going to sound like an asshole, but please stick with me here. I'm going to shout out for what I'm calling the Pardner-in-Chief, a.k.a. our president, for offering, it kind of got buried, offering to pardon people that is nominated from all the NFL players that were kneeling during the anthem. Only thing that I heard that sounds like a good idea. So I've got some other stuff for shut-ups, so please, before I get yelled at, let's just wait for that.
You can never do anything safely there because, like, 5 seconds later, everything goes to shit.
Yeah,
right.
It's like, he said, like...
It's like, oh, God, no.
Very rarely does he say anything that I agree with, but he does, and then, like, 10 minutes later, you read something else, and just no.
Like, you ruined everything. Can I do a shout-out?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I'm actually going to shout out a local business because we were just talking about Doctor Who. So you can't see this because it's a podcast, but I have a beautiful circular Gallifreyan tattoo on my arm.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yes. This says fear is a superpower. It is from the season. Oh, it was Capaldi's 4th episode called "Listen."
I haven't watched any of those.
Oh my God, Peter Capaldi's my favorite.
I don't
doctor.
like Jenna. I don't like who's
Jenna
her face?
Coleman really comes into her own.
I like Jenna Coleman. I don't like Oswin or whatever.
Oh, Osgood.
Whatever. I didn't like her as a companion.
Oh no, she's not really there. It's just her and Clara. It's him and Clara. He is wonderful. Well, anyway, so but circular Gallifreyan, it is a very hard language to write, and they did all of this with like really perfectly beautiful circular lines and for a very affordable price. And they are also an artist social club, and I'm collaborating with them on my next book. I'm writing a cannabis adjacent cookbook, and I decided to self-publish it because I wanted to work with people from Baltimore. And I know that the big white publishing monolith in New York wasn't really going to take to my idea of like working with artists from South Baltimore. So so I'm collaborating with these guys on Washington and Scott. They're fantastic. If you need a tattoo, if you want any artwork, go check them out.
What was it called?
Ripped Canvas. RIPP''D Canvas.
Nice.
On Scott and Washington. And Pigtown in general. Go shop at Pigtown.
Yeah.
All our store owners are wonderful
Main
people.
Street needs your patronage.
Yeah, 910 Condition, Breaking Bread, Culinary Architecture. It's a great little street.
Love that place.
Which one?
Culinary Architecture.
I know.
I mean, all of them in general.
Did you go to the Secret Garden in the back?
I have not been.
Yeah, during the summer, just ask if you take your coffee out in the garden and they'll let you. There's a secret garden in the back. It's beautiful. And then 910 Condition is the place to go if you need sneakers. They're all on consignment, or Michael Jordan memorabilia, any kind of 1990s.
They have a lot of Space Jam stuff in the window.
Yeah, they have like a Space Jam like kind of museum, and they also have like a Michael Jordan museum in there.
How did we miss this, Brian?
There's a Space Jam museum in Baltimore, and I've never been.
At the 910 Condition, they have like every piece of Space Jam memorabilia that was created, and it's like
including the website.
Yeah, but if you go into the front of their store, actually has the cardboard cutouts, the Space Jam cutouts. It's like facing, and then inside they have a ton of Michael Jordan memorabilia. And if you're looking for streetwear or anything from the 90s, that'll make you go like, oh my God, I totally remember this. How is it like vintage? Then 910 Condition. I had a kid the other day. He comes in and he's like, "Oh yeah, look at my vintage bag," and it was a fucking Discman bag. And I was like, "Dude," and he's like, "It's from like the early 2000s. It's vintage." And
I'm like, "It's from 1992, bro."
Friggin' 2002 is vintage now, and I'm like, "I'm done. I'm done with this. Fuck all of it. Fuck everybody." Yeah.
That sounds like a shut up to me, but we are not there yet. We got about another 25 minutes to go.
Do we?
I don't know.
I'm done.
Or you want to do back-to-back shout-outs, then shut-ups?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah,
why not?
Why not?
We've never done this before.
That's okay.
Fine.
It's all right.
I can go all night long. All night long.
All right, well then it's time to get a little angry. Time to get a little venti.
Not 25 minutes.
Time to get a little murderous.
Fatality.
I'm too hungover to do this. Time to go right ahead and tell everyone to shut up.
We gonna let the band deal with it.
Total
All right, this is the end of the show in which we give people, places, and things that are giving us the opposite of jollies and deproving our quality of life. A hearty shut up.
Shut up.
My shut up this week is to booze.
The cause and solution to all life problems.
I probably shouldn't have started drinking at noon yesterday and continued until 2 in the morning. That's why I'm in the shape that I'm in right now, and I have no one to blame.
No one runs a marathon the way I run a marathon, that's for sure.
I remember the last time I tried to hang with Brian. It didn't go very well for me.
Yeah, I'm very good at drinking.
Okay.
It's feather in my cap.
Brian, what is your shut up?
What am I holding right now, guys?
A mailer.
A mailer.
Oh, from Team 46?
Well, from whoever. It doesn't matter who it's from. The mailers are not important. Gang, I've been seeing a lot of you who must not know how the postal service works. We're complaining on the social medias about the amount of mailers that you're getting. One, shut the fuck up. You're not original. No one gives a shit that you get mail. Everyone gets the same fucking mail. Two, none of you know why or who you're voting for anyway, so read one of the fucking things before you complain about it. Like, oh, I'm getting all this shit. Who'd you vote for? Oh, I just went down the Democratic line. I mean, that's fine. I'm not, angry about that, but, don't complain about the fucking process if you're not going to involve yourself in the process. Just complain about it. And three, just it's fucking mail. Who cares? Why are we getting all these things here? I'll throw that out for you. Another mailer? Shut the fuck up.
Well done.
Thank you.
Casey.
From the Fam Zone, Jeff Elkins, shut up to kids travel versus rec sports and the nonsense that world is.
Yeah, no, okay, so I was only hearing some of that earlier. Who said that, Jeff?
Jeff.
I agree, Jeff. Kids specialize. Getting into college is hard. The entire sports scene is completely different. I feel like we covered that last week. Go.
Sort of did.
Yeah, Liz Gall, shut up to depression. In fact, fuck you, depression, for taking Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah.
And then from myself, taking it back to the shout-outs from earlier.
To the guy, to
the same guy. It's I don't know if I've ever done this before, but shut up to our president. It takes a lot to piss off Canadians. I work with them. They're generally very affable people.
Sorry.
And yet, you fucking managed to piss off all of Canada.
Trudeau actually said that today. He made a statement. He's like, Canadians are very nice and we're very polite, but we will not be pushed around. I was like, oh shit, it just got real.
Yeah. And then also, asbestos is bad. This is a fact. It's not something that you're entitled to your opinion, not your own facts. Mm-hmm. Asbestos is bad. Let's not pretend like it's not. And
the war on asbestos needs to end, Casey.
Just like with coal.
Is that it?
That's all I got.
I have something.
Okay.
If you are parking your car and there is more than 2 feet between your bumper and the guy in front of you, you are in 2 spots. Everyone in Baltimore taking up 2-3 spots. There's nights that come to my block and there are 3 cars taking up 5 spots.
Yep.
Your car is not special. Bumpers are for bumping. Move your ass up.
I agree, Allison.
It's like she's been on this show the whole time.
Amazing. Amazing.
Caitlin has a shut up.
This shout out. I mean, shut up. Because not a shout out. It's fucking shut up. Because don't feed birds.
No, I will feed birds. I will feed birds.
No, don't shotgun feed birds. Don't just throw fucking peanuts on your front walk. Or sometimes they throw Apple Jacks, and I was really upset about that.
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
Why would somebody feed
I
that?
said, Maria, that's a waste of good Apple Jacks there. And she just said, it's for the birds. I'm like, no.
No, you know what's a dick move? If you're sitting at a park bench and I run up to you and I throw bird food at you and then I run. That is terrible.
No, but I want to do that now.
So here's my issue. Mm-hmm. So I normally don't really care about what anybody does, except for when I wake up in the morning and I am literally consumed by pigeons because they're waiting to be fed in our neighbor's lawn.
We're not getting good. So this is what
it's not the cute birds. It's a fucking pigeon. Don't feed the pigeons.
Like I said, it's shotgun feeding. They're not buying foods for
it's not a feeder,
right?
They're just and then all the
bread
pigeons
out in the lawn.
We have some neighbors that throw just half full, half a loaf.
Peanut shells.
They're not going to eat the shells. That's
No, it's
throwing
peanuts.
shells on
It's
your
peanuts.
lawn. Oh, okay. Because then that's fine.
It's peanuts.
My husband and I have this fight about the beach because he's he hates birds. And I like the birds. He's like, why are you feeding the birds? You're bringing the birds here. I'm like, this is literally where the birds live. They are seagulls. We are in their home. You don't just come here and be like, oh no, birds, you're not allowed to be here except for like the 2 days a year I want to show up. They are seagulls. And if you go to somebody's house, you bring a gift, and that gift is chips, so shut the fuck up.
That's fine. That's fine. However, I did not invite these pigeons. In fact, these pigeons, we lived there for almost 2 years, were not anywhere near us at all.
No, the pigeons are new. We had blue jays, and I loved watching the Civil War of the blue jays.
Yeah, we had really cool birds, and now we just have pigeons because they're bullies.
We still have the blue.
Pigeons saved our asses in World War I, though.
And now there are no more carrier pigeons.
Yeah.
Well, these are not the same
Passenger
pigeons.
pigeons are extinct.
I think they're the same thing.
You can train these pigeons.
Did you know that mourning doves are pigeons?
Yeah.
I didn't until recently. But that's not mourning doves. They're just straight up pigeons.
If this goes really far with your neighbor, what you need to do is corral the pigeons and begin to train them to act against your neighbor.
If Caitlin gets into a fight with her neighbors over this, I'm leaving her. So, have fun, babe.
Good. Wedding's off.
Great.
I'm fighting about this.
Great.
Wait, why don't you have the pigeons at your wedding with the hawks and the owls?
Bird murder.
That's what we're having for dinner. It's pigeon.
It's just going to have the bird
We're
wedding.
just going to tell people it's quail.
Quail on a board?
Okay.
All right, that has been Shut Up. Episode 232?
Sure.
Something like
Palindrome.
that. 3? I don't know. Whatever. Allison, thank you so much for coming on
Thank
the show.
you for having me. You guys are
It's
amazing.
joyful. I think we will have you on as frequently as we can.
Anytime you want. Again, we're neighbors.
Yeah,
It was wonderful.
Consider we could record a show at your place.
Sure. I have 3 cats to make it extra exciting.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I only have the one.
I don't know if we can because Brian has a pretty foul mouth and she has 2 children.
Oh my God, you should hear the words that come out of my kid's mouth.
I'll teach them something new.
Yeah. I
New
just told
curse
him, I was
words.
like, no
I'll teach you
slurs.
something new.
I have the mouth of, I wrote a cupcake cookbook that uses the word fuck 137 times. That does include cocksucker and motherfucker in as considering as one part of the word F, so to speak, the categorization.
Where can we get this cookbook?
On Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and anywhere where fine books are sold.
And what's it called?
It's called Robicelli's A Love Story with Cupcakes. My second book didn't have any cursing in it, but I curse like a sailor. So I just told my kids, I was like, don't say any words that would hurt people. And then the rest of them, fuck it. You know, just do what you want.
Awesome.
I love
Can't wait to have you back again. And yes, we will visit you and your fire pit over there in Pigtown. We'll do all the things.
And we'll cook hot dogs on the fire pit so it's legal.
And no birds. No
Yes, it's true.
birds.
All right. Any closing thoughts, Casey?
Oh, Casey.
Thank you for being a friend.
Oh, okay.
Aw.
Travel around the world and back again.
Oh, what a lonely boy.
Also a chapter about the Golden Girls in my cookbook. Not a
Oh.
lie.
Well, shit. All right. Thank you very much.
We
for
need
listening.
something to talk about next time, and now we have it.
That's true. We'll load it up. We'll add her to the group chat. How about that?
There we go.
All right. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for being
She
a
doesn't want
fan
that.
and a friend. Have a great day and a better tomorrow.